Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of the Newstalk WTIM Morning Show, heard on the Big 870 AM all across central Illinois, 96.1 FM in Christian County, as well as 107.5 FM in Shelby County. I'm your host, Michael Pickett, joined in studio here this morning with Dr. Gregg Fuerstenau, Superintendent of the Taylorville School District. And, we were kind of talking before we went on the air here, Greg, but before we start talking here, let me just say thank you so much for coming on in this morning.
Oh, it's always my pleasure to come in here and speak with the listeners that reside within the Taylorville School District.
And, getting back to what I was starting to get in there, we were talking before we got started here that it's kind of a different vibe here this morning with our conversations. Normally in the past, we're talking about how, well, we hope that something happens with school funding reform and, the state can kind of get its act together in properly funding schools. And, well, now that's happened, we're sitting here and you're telling me that, when it comes to the school's budget moving forward, it's optimism now instead of the pessimism we've had to see the last couple of years.
Well, I think that optimistic is a good word to describe the current situation, that it was a long 4.5-year battle for school funding reform in the state of Illinois. And, Senator Menard took that task on, and we got that mission accomplished. But Representative Bourne as well was part of the process as it finally got into law. And as I reported at the board meeting, that we're awaiting to see what the new funding looks like that will be coming in. But the main thing is that we didn't lose any money. That was really critical to us, and it's critical into the future that we now have a mechanism that at least we can have some planning, knowing that we're going to get what we got last year. So it's easier to build budgets that way, knowing what part of your revenue will be from the state. But included in this funding is that they've also put the two of the mandated categoricals in terms of special education into the formula, so that money comes to the district in form of general state aid. So it's not separate, it's not outside, so that they can't necessarily withhold those categorical payments. So if the stars align right and things come in right, depending upon what that new money looks like, we could be approaching a balanced budget in the Ed Fund, which has been a long time coming in terms of that. So it gives the district some good, solid financial planning in the future.
Yeah, and, that's one of the things, in my time attending the school board meetings, it seems like, it's been a lot of work to kind of get to where we're at, not only with the school funding reform, but just with the Taylorville School District being on solid footing when it comes to, the budget and, having a balanced budget. And as you said, that work seems to be paying off and could be balanced and good as early as this year.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the district can be proud of, that through these rough financial times, we have been able to weather this storm. But there were difficult decisions that had to be made, and it took a collective effort from the school board, the administration, the staff, and the community as well to put Taylorville in the position that it is right now, and it's going to be good for kids.
So as you said, there's a lot of school districts across the state right now. We're not quite sure exactly what the numbers are going to be once the new funding formula gets going and schools start getting their money. But is there any kind of guesstimate, I guess you could say, in terms of, well, what you're kind of expecting?
Well, as I indicated to the board Monday night, Mike, is the fact that we were looking at FY16 numbers. So that's the reason the holdup on getting the new money that's distributed to schools through, is because they have to use actual 17 data. Okay, so if it were to be the FY16 numbers that we saw, the district would be due $300,000 in new money. But I don't know what the numbers of 17 look like in terms of what the state considers poverty students, what the increase in EAV, those types of things will have. But it is clear that we are going to see some new money because Taylorville is a Tier 1 school district, and we are one of the districts that are far from our adequacy target, and the new formula targets money down to those school districts that are farther away from adequacy in the state.
Yeah, and that's one thing we had. We mentioned Avery Bourne. We had her in here earlier this week. That's one of the things she was talking about, is getting money to school districts that need it the most first. And as you said, we're still kind of waiting to see how the state determines what schools are, properly funded. But I mean, with Taylorville, it seems like over the past several years, any way you look at it, it just has not been adequately funded.
No, and I think that, as we've discussed previously, that Taylorville, not only it has not been adequately funded, but it was equitably funded as well, in the fact that the proration hurt us more so because of our reliance on state aid, and we have a high percentage of poverty students, and therefore our proration was dreadful to school districts such as Taylorville.
Yeah. Let's keep talking about that school board meeting recently. You had discussions there with the teachers, and let's talk about what those discussions were all about and what came of them.
In terms of our student testing, we did have our administration come in and give report. Previously in the summer, the high school administration talked about the SAT, and then we've got our park results back, which our students 3 through 8 take the park exam, and then we had our administration from 3rd and 4th grade give its presentation, and then the administration 5 through 8 gave their presentation.
Okay. I was talking along the lines more so of there's a new deal now with the teachers' unions, correct?
Yes, the board did ratify the contract with the teaching staff. They had previously ratified the contract with the support staff, and that with the support staff was 1.5% increase. On the teaching side of it, it's a 2-year deal, as well as the support staff, and it was a step plus 0.4 or 0.4% in year 1, which represents the average of 2%. And then if you go to year 2, which would be 18-19, it's step plus 0.6 or 2.2%.
Well, and that's got to be good news. I think it's always good news when teachers are making more money, right?
Well, I think that it shows that our teaching staff has worked with us over the past 12 years. They have been an integral part of getting through these difficult financial times in terms of working with the school board, in terms of coming up with what's a fair settlement as they move forward. It is good for the district to have a 2-year contract with both of our support staff and our teaching staff, so that we can do some planning for the next year and then get ourselves ready for the year after that.
Wonderful. We're sitting here joined with Dr. Gregg Fuerstenau. He is the superintendent of the Taylorville School District. And Dr. Fuerstenau, a couple of weeks into the school year, a couple of weeks into the school year already. We'll talk about what some of the plans are here moving forward, coming up next here on this segment of the Newstalk WTIM Morning Show, streamed online at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.